Guru Kripa Kevalam. Namaste and welcome everyone to Satsang today. Sadguru Shri Muji Baba ki Jai. Oh, thank you. Same. So basically, it boils down to two things. First is, have you found God truly in your heart? And the second is, are you unwaveringly living in God's light? Or is the discovery of God just another mechanism for us to have things our way? Is it a way for us to win in this life? Is spirituality in service to me, or whatever is left of me is now in service to God? So is spirituality therefore then self-serving or self-sacrificing? We live in a world, in a humanity where everything is meant to be self-serving and therefore selfish. And therefore our idea of spirituality also has been distorted to such an extent that it is meant to help me. But true spirituality is God at all costs, God for God's sake, truth at all costs, truth for truth's sake. So right at the beginning, let's examine for ourselves. What am I doing here? What are we doing here? And if the idea is, okay, now what's happening to me because of what I'm hearing? Am I getting peace? Is my life better? Am I feeling relief from stress? Then there are thousands of other ways to do that. We don't need to come to Satsang for that. But if I really want the truth, independent of the concepts I may have about truth, if I want the truth that my heart speaks, that my intuition brings to light, then this is the place for that. So, independent of questions about doership and choice, all of that, first we need to make this decision. Am I in satsang? Am I in spirituality? So that I can achieve some phenomenal objective goals. Or is there a unexplainable love in my heart for that which I call truth or God or self? Is there an inexplainable call in my heart which I have no option but to answer? Already coming to satsang is an act of faith. Already coming to satsang is an act of faith because you have no rational reason to be here. And if you did come and if it's your first time or something like that, very soon all that will be blown up. So you have no rational reason to be here at various times in the world, your different time zones. There's no actual rational reason why you collect, why we collect here. So your coming here itself is a following of the call of your heart. And that following that call of your heart is an act of faith. So coming to satsang is a change. The most important change that we can make in life. Because external changes, you can change your house, you can change your furniture, you may even change your partner, you may do some surgery and change how your body looks. All this external change is easier to do. But to change from the inside, and not just in terms of the character of your thoughts or the type of emotions that you're experiencing, not just this change, but the entire system, operating system, as I've been calling it, needs to change and is changing. We've been operating from our heads, from our minds. And now we can only operate from our hearts. And this heart is the most confusing thing for the head because is it emotions? No. Is it like a worldly love? No, not even a worldly love. It's a deeper love. It's a deeper heart. It's your spiritual center. It's actually where God lives. It's where God lives and the apparent me can meet God. It is the only place where God can be met. That is the heart. So to live clinging to the heart is to live a life clinging to your heart. Then our life becomes like a child playing in God's house, which is the only stable foundation, the only way to live a stable life, a true life. If you live your life on any other basis, which is on the basis of what the external world is telling you, on the basis of what, therefore, your senses are telling you, your thoughts are telling you, your emotions are telling you, it is bound to be a very unstable life with a lack of any steadiness and foundation. The only way to lead a true life is to lead it in connection with God. Now the thing about connection with God is that there is not space for two here. There's only space for God here. When there is only space for God, then you connect with God. If there's a me trying to connect, not going to happen. So, sorry, my body is a bit tired today, so I noticed the words are a bit strained in coming out. The volume may not be that high, but those who are sincerely listening, are you getting a sense of what the project is? Getting a sense of what we are trying to do in Satsang. So, this is important. So, first, clarification about what all of this is important. Otherwise, many times we continue to be in a self-serving mode, trying to come to the intuitive insight or to the way of faith, and then constantly checking how is this helping me, which is not the intention at all. So all those who are in this to meet the truths, and independent of what other benefits I may get in my life, will have a very straightforward time in satsang. Those who try to hold on to some selfishness, personal desire, many times it will seem like you're getting squeezed. And if that happens, then welcome that squeezing also, because as I've been saying, only the false can be burnt. So if there's burning happening and you want the truth, then let the false be burnt. So presuming that all of you that are still here then are in this project together with me, where we have decided that our life will be full of God, it will be full of truth, independent of whatever may happen to us personally. That's the first deal. Independent of what thoughts, emotions, life circumstances, bodily circumstances, we are in this and we are in this for the truth and we are in this for God. If there's any doubt about this, you can come up. Or if you're completely clear that you don't want this, you just wanted something personally, there's always the exit option in Zoom. So, but unless we get clarification that this is what we're collectively embarking on, then all of us will keep walking in different directions and all of us will end up confusing each other. That's the extent of what is going to happen. So this is very important. If you can say with your heart, even though you may wobble and doubt a bit, it's okay. But predominantly in your heart, you're done with the person, you want God. You're done with the lies, you want truth. Even if that means everything personal that you desired will not be attained. And even if that means that which we are most averse to facing in the world of phenomena, that shows up at all costs. Are we in this at all costs? Because I don't want to spend time on a armchair, lip service, airy-fairy type spirituality. To live in this deep connection with God and therefore oneness with God, the the trickiest sacrifice, I won't say most difficult, but the trickiest sacrifice is the sacrifice of our individual will. And the question really is quite straightforward. What do you want? What is it that you want? And you can ask this question at any point, even in satsang. What do you want? And you have to come to a point where you don't want what you want. Okay? Come to a point where you don't want what you want, and I will tell you how. The first how is if you are able to identify what you want, then the mind will tell you, you must do the opposite of this. But that's not what I'm saying at all. So suppose that what you want is to be noticed by Ananta and the Sangha. Okay? So, or notice that, oh, you're doing so well, or notice that you're so upset, or notice whatever. So, shine that in your light. And for many of you, just to say let it go is good enough. But for many of you, you will find it difficult to let it go unless some replacement is given to you. I don't want that. Now I want this. So find out in your heart what God wants. Find out in your heart what God wants. And this instruction is for life. This instruction is for life. I'll tell you how to follow it throughout our life. So only two options now. You let go of your mental idea about what you want, your individual will, and you came to a point where you want to follow God's will. Now only two options. One is that you find out, or it's apparent to you what God's will is. Or the second option is that there is silence. Isn't it? If you're not following me, tell me. The first option is that I went to God and God said something. Easy. Second option is I went to God, and usually, initially, this will be the more predominant option where you find that you went to God, but it's not coming. You may say, I don't know how Ananta says all his words come from the heart, because when I go to the heart, there's only silence. So this silence is very beautiful. It's very auspicious. Because in the silence, notice and tell me if it is true. God's light is palpable. Just in the turning away from our heads, the light of our presence, the light of our Sadguru presence, the light of our heart is palpable. So, in the light of God's will, in the light of God's light, whatever unfolds is also in God's will. And if there is some guidance which becomes apparent and can be conceptualized, that will be made available to you as well. So, the exchange for your individual will with God's will is the true surrender. And it is not momentary. Because many times in Satsang, it can become popular to surrender. Oh, I surrender to you, Father. I surrender to Guruji. I surrender to Arunachala. I surrender to everyone. And then within 2 minutes, out, out, back in the way of the head. So to live in the way of the heart is to live in God's will, come what may, come what may. So one child says, of course, and I appreciate this report. One says, yes, Father, but I am also scared. Yes, yes, it can be scary. It can be scary. And that's why what is our deal? Our deal is at whatever cost. At whatever cost. And that deal will not make the fear go away, but it will keep you strong. The fear, in fact, is very important. And those who are not experiencing any fear at all, either are fully open and empty, or are not understanding the magnitude of my instruction. Or maybe even using Advaita to, or some spiritual concept to not meet what I'm saying fully. Because what I'm telling you takes away any idea of stability from your life. What I'm telling you takes away all idea of safety from your life, stability from your life. Because to change your operating system, you need to cut out all the roots that the old operating system had. You can't have any of that software running to provide you safety. You have to completely switch over. Because nobody can predict what God is going to ask of you in the next instant. Nothing and nobody can predict what God is going to ask of you in the next instant. And do you love God and do you trust God that much that you can follow in spite of that? In spite of even the fear. You're absolutely right. One child says, and yet this feels like the ultimate stability. That's absolutely right. But for a while it will seem unstable. You're actually coming to the truest foundation, that which you can always rely on. Do you have something like that right now? We don't have in the human condition. We don't have something that we can always rely on. Our friends, our relatives, our loved ones, the world, our countries, our anything, communities, nothing. So we are switching over to an ultimate stability. But I don't want to emphasize that too much because that can become too much of a reassurance. Right now, I want to experience the fear and the discomfort instead of balming it or reassuring it. So, what is the deal we are making? The second deal of the day. First deal is God at all costs. Yes. Second deal is we will be open to hear God's guidance, Sadhguru's guidance in our heart, and we will follow unwaveringly, no matter what it is. No matter what it is. And if there is something that the mind uses as a message to say, but if God asks you for this you cannot do, then we have to shine our light on that question and say, what is the blind spot here? Why is there a lack of trust? Or what is this lack of trust that I have in the Supreme Intelligence that I would not follow if it was about this? And this can bring a lot of fear because this can be about material comforts, it can be about our relationships, it can be about even our satsang and our idea of God and freedom. So this following God's will at all costs is what I am calling the way of faith. Today's satsang, if you notice, is it's coming out in the opposite way as the previous audio satsang which I shared. The audio is available now, where I first looked at the way of insight and then the way of faith. But today, let's approach it from the other direction. Let's approach it from the other direction. So now we are committed to only God at all costs, and we have left our life in the mind's version in a very unpredictable state. In a very unpredictable state, because nobody can predict what God's will is. How many feel you will retreat from right here? That's too tough. Anybody close to beating a retreat? Okay, you come.
Hello, Father.
Hello, my dear. Are you close to running?
Ah,
Are you close to running?
yes.
Okay, so what is the message? What are you scared of?
that I'm so attached to so many things that I can't let go. And something that I didn't know it was like that. It was, for me, it was so clear for so long that it was only truth and all this voice of only spirituality and all that. And I don't know, that was false, that was not true.
Very good. This is very good. This seeing ourselves in the mirror is very important. And I'm saying that you cannot even want the truth. Because if I say, what do you want? And you say the truth, I say, throw it away. What does God want now? What does God want? And if we say, but I'm scared to throw it away because God may not want truth, then that points us, that shines our light on the lack of trust in that only being, the only intelligence there is. Yet in our expression as this aspect of consciousness, we are exhibiting a lack of trust in that. So anyway, God has not asked you yet to throw away your attachment to all these things that you mentioned. But you're already in the light of the possibility something starts to shake, isn't it? In the light of the possibility, because it could be next moment where God says, off with this or done with this.
What was the last thing you said?
Because then in the next moment, you may lose that, you may be guided to lose that attachment. Is it? And you already know in your heart that you have to follow. So till we don't learn to follow, and that's why I've been saying this has become one of my favorite things to say, is to say that before we can become one with Ram, we must become Hanuman. For those of you who are not familiar with this, uh, Hanuman was the most obedient disciple, the most obedient follower, and he would jump over oceans and lift mountains at the word of Lord Ram. So I want to make it absolutely certain to everyone that it is not possible to have oneness with God till there is a complete surrender, a complete following, a complete submission to God. And this, in fact, is the convenient spirituality that I've been ranting against in the last couple of months. Because I noticed a very comfortable, complacent, arrogant spirituality without realizing. And that has so much separation from God. But we have all the concepts and we have all the insights and experiences. But our life is in no way connected to God. Then it becomes just a mental spirituality. So I've been squeezing this aspect of it, and we'll come to the way of insight very soon. And this bird has two wings. One is the way of faith and one is the way of insight. But the way of faith is really squeezing everyone's buttons a bit, and that's why I'm happy to squeeze more. That means that is where our ego is hiding. That's where our individuality is hiding. So what are you scared of?
Keep living in, like, being obedient to my mind.
Just waiting for the plane to fly past. Plane after a long time. I said, what are you scared of? You said uh, that you're scared that you will keep believing your mind, or the symptom is that you'll keep believing your mind.
That I keep living, being obedient to my mind.
So you leave being obedient to your heart and you start believing your mind. Is it? Now, what is it that you leave the heart for? What is that desire or want? Because the mind cannot attract you unless you want something.
So many things, Father.
You want so many things? Let me see. Let me see. So many things. Doesn't look like so many things. In the human condition, not possible to want so many things. Is there so many things an avoidance to look?
I know there's a lot of concern about, like, having financial security and survival and all that.
Yeah.
I know that.
Very good. Very good. So don't hide from that. Don't hide from that. Now, if I said to you, leave everything and come here, would you?
Here where?
Here to Bangalore or wherever, to Timbuktu, wherever.
Yes.
Leave all your material possessions, leave everything. and just move to a cave in Timbuktu? Either yes or no is perfectly fine as an answer. See? But to answer is important. Either yes or no is completely fine as an answer, because if it is yes, it is so beautiful. It is a reaffirmation of your faith. You see? And if it is no, then you know where to shine your light. What are you scared of?
Ciao.
Just mute everyone. So, if you're willing to follow me on the outside, if I were to tell you to give you an instruction, and you say yes, I would do it. You see? Then are you saying that if it was to come from your heart, which is my true presence, because this instrument is not the Guru. If it is to come from the Sadguru presence in your heart, you are saying that you feel you would not follow, or what?
I feel I haven't been doing it lately.
So, to see that is good. To see that is good. And the only remedy is to start now. But I want to be careful when I explain this remedy. The only remedy is to start now. But the offer also expires now. So you cannot leave it till tomorrow to start. So to notice that you have not been doing it, good. To mope about it and to think more about it is not good. The only response to that noticing is to immediately come in the surrender to God. Immediately. Otherwise, the mind will use this one-two punch and say, yes, see, I've been so bad, I've been unworthy, I don't know why it doesn't stop. So then it's continue to play out that way. But the way of the heart is that when you notice, you stop and you retreat into the heart. Who is waiting for you in the heart?
You.
So the Sadguru presence, God's light, God's word, Holy Spirit, divinity. Mira said the other day, she used a nice term, I love that one, the wise one. So whatever reverential phrase or term we want to use for it is absolutely fine. But the highest intelligence, the highest light, the true presence of God is available to us in the world. And this is, if this is a true insight, then where can we waver following that? This is the only end to selfishness. This is the only true foundation, is to allow yourself to take this leap of faith. Now, what is the worst case scenario? The worst case scenario is that you went, one is that you went sincerely to the heart, and the heart just tricked you. See? Because not God who's sitting in the heart, it's actually the ego or something, tricked you. Now, that getting deluded is a fear that your mind will constantly use, and it will constantly doubt using this. So I want to reassure you today and tell you that If you went with sincerity to your heart and you're being guided, after that, it's none of your business. You did what you could, you've done your part. The rest is God's problem. That's the first thing. The second thing is, oh, but if God asks me for something which I just cannot do, that is also useful to spot, because at least it takes us out of our notion of being so spiritually evolved and surrendered and all of those things. So to just belabor that same example, if you would say, if God said to you, give up everything and go live in this cave in Timbuktu. Now, if you find yourself hesitating in doubt, then that is your inquiry for the moment. That is your inquiry. And shine your light with full sincerity on this. And say, there is a difference between my lips, what my mouth says, and what I actually follow. Please help me with this. There's a difference because in my mouth I've said a million times I surrender to God fully. I surrender to Guru fully. But when the time came, I'm not able to do it. Not with any guilt, not with any unworthiness, but just a looking. What stops me? What is in my way? Allow that burning to happen. Because that which can burn is not your reality. Your mind can also convince you that God will not ask you anyway. Too much of a nice guy, much too kind to ask you to throw away your life. Don't be in that pretense at all. God is the highest intelligence and does not care about our attachments. It is the highest intelligence and it is the highest love. And because it is the highest love, it does not care about our falseness one bit. Remember that anything can be asked of you. Then don't expect what is being asked to make sense. Start painting the next Mona Lisa. I have never painted anything in my life. What? So don't expect things to make sense in the way of the heart. You can either pick your sense making or you can pick the heart. Anything can show up. And we must be open in our surrender to follow. Don't expect it to make any sense. And you notice how obsessed we are to sense making. In this instruction, you notice that how obsessed we are to sense making, that even God's will has to make sense to our limited mind before we follow.
But I just don't know what God wants me to do. Or
Why don't you know?
I don't.
Try to know. Have you tried to know, and for how long? And
Not sure.
not as a rebuke. I'm really asking, as a doctor, you see, why is the medicine not working? So tell me if you've taken the right dosage, if you've taken the right dosage every day, then you don't feel guided. Is it like that? Or you've not taken the dosage and you don't feel guided?
Maybe it's the second one.
Okay, so let's look. What is the way to be guided? There are two ways, I said. No? And I realize the mind can be going woo as I'm sharing, so I'm happy to repeat this many times. What is it? What does it mean to be guided? How do you know that you're being guided? How do you know that you just finished talking about it? How do you know that God is guiding you? Yes, so if God's light is apparent, the presence is palpable, same thing, very good. Then what unfolds naturally is happening in the will of God. Okay? So that is one. And the second is that it is heard or understood or the message is received in some way, whichever way what God wants to tell us. Tell me which one you're not able to do.
I feel that lately is the first one, the clarity and the
Okay.
the apparency of my being.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you. So that brings us to the second part. How do I know that I'm truly being intuitive? How do I know that this is God's light? This is the doubt. No? This is the doubt. So I have said that we are at such a beautiful advantage because we can say collectively as a Sangha, by Guruji's grace, that when my being is apparent to me, or when myself is apparent to me, when I'm in the apparency of self-knowledge, then I can only be intuitive. Because there is no way that your mind or perception can make the self apparent to you. So if the self is apparent to you and there's no reason why it shouldn't be for you, then how can you doubt that this is God's light?
But that's what I'm saying, Father, that I don't feel that myself is apparent lately. It's very...
Yes. So what is the tool you have for that?
You.
Yes, me, but a specific tool is are you aware now? Or can you stop being? Or who am I? Or open an end key or headless or hundreds of them now. Now your mind will say, but it is not working. But I want to see it not working. Show me how it cannot work.
Is that I'm not doing it. I'm not
Yes. So once you notice you're not doing it, start now. Even if it feels over and over and over. You see? Over and over and over and over. The sacrifice of your individual will seem to be over and over and over. Till one day it's over. So I'm not, that's why I was saying that it's so simple what I'm saying. It's so, so simple. But initially it may not seem that easy. Because
but it's like what? The last thing you said, I didn't hear.
it not always seems so easy. Why? Because we still want. We still want. As long as we want, it won't seem easy.
That's what I feel is happening.
Yes. So what do you want? And now zero in on something. What is the one thing that you would not give even if God asked?
I just don't want to. I want to not want.
Yes. Okay. So let me help you. If God said, give me all your relationships, take
You
them.
have them.
If God said, give me this body and let it be in whatever state I put it,
I'm not so sure because I'm afraid of pain.
then zero in on that. You don't want pain, even if God wants. Zero in on that. This is very good. This is beautiful because it's no longer hiding behind broad terms. Say, okay, there are so many examples in history where the greatest sages have had to undergo so much pain. But if God wills it on me, I will run, put that into your light. It's not a bad thing. That's why I said a yes and a no, both are good, as long as it's not hiding. So this is very good progress. At least you notice it. You say, I don't want pain. This is beautiful. Keep your light on this. Okay. So this is very good. Relationships you said, body you said. What about meaning or freedom or enlightenment or truth? God said, no more truth for you in this life. No. A very interesting one. But don't forget about the pain thing. We'll come back to that. But this one I really want to deconstruct. This one I really want to deconstruct. What is truth? Is there a higher truth than God's will? Is there a higher truth than God's will? So if God wills that you don't get the truth that you think you want, is it because we have an image of enlightenment? We have an image of truth? We have an idea of awareness or consciousness or something like that? So if God said, no more satsang for you, no more truth for you, it is my will. Your heart's said clearly, or living in God's presence, truly living with integrity in God's light, you don't find you want even truth. Would you sacrifice your individual will wants truth according to your idea of what it is?
There's hell in the other side. How could I want hell?
But do you feel like you have the better way to heaven than God does? To use the same terminology then. If you say that empty of truth, I am in hell, and God should help me then go to stay in heaven. So if God says to me, no, give up on the truth, do you trust God to know that it is God itself which makes it heaven and hell? Or the presence of God makes it heaven and the seeming absence of God makes it hell? Is there any other hell or heaven? So why would a loving father want their child to be in hell?
When I say hell, it's the mind's hell. I don't mean it any
Well, which
place.
the mind's, you know what the mind's hell is? You know what
Yes,
the
I
mind
live it.
you do actually, but let me allow me to say my version of that, which is not being able to live life on my terms.
Okay.
Is my version of hell. If I have to live life on God's terms or on any terms which are not mine, that is the mind version of bondage actually. But the mind version of bondage is actually freedom. The mind's version of freedom is actually hell. This is very strong medicine. This is very strong medicine because we thought that freedom will mean that I can live on my terms. But those terms are from the mind, and those terms are how do I try to make a comfortable living in hell. If you can hear this, if you can get this, it will save you so much trouble. What is the my way done so good for us so far that we are so attached to it?
I have no idea why. It's why could we be so attached to? Ugh.
Let me give you a metaphor so that it becomes easier. So, suppose you were in a city full of crime, full of trouble, yeah? And everywhere you left the house, you see, you could just get into trouble with attachments, relationships, money, body, uh, teachers, everything is just trouble. Huh? Then, because your father loves you so much, your father builds a huge palace for you with a playground where everything is safe. Nothing can ever hurt you. See? All you have to do is follow your father's instruction. Don't leave from this gate. Don't go over there. But you can play as much as you want. Yeah. Now, if you insist on leaving the house and playing in the area of strife, and then when strife happens, then okay, even if it does happen, what is the best route available to you? Run back home as soon as you can. Not, I will try and make this strife work. I will try to reform the mind, make it better. Or I feel like I can do a bit of both. You see, because I like the nightlife in the city. Huh? Just like go for the party, whenever it becomes too much, or my friends are losing it and they're starting to vomit, I will just run back home. You see? We cannot do that. But we cannot do because nobody is able to juggle that. So you cannot juggle the me along with God. You cannot juggle the ways of the mind along with the ways of the heart. There is no shortage, there is no lack of anything for you in the heart. It just doesn't go according to the mind's map or the mind's plan. That's it. Why would that God, the light of which millions and trillions of these universes have come into existence and faded within him, why would that God deny anything to their children? see? So if Ram said to Hanuman, just go get me that mountain, but Hanuman said, no, no, Lord, I have a better mountain. Why do you want from that mountain? I'll get you a better one. There's more better medicine than Sanjeevani on that other one I know. You see? Because I read in some magazine somewhere. Then what is the outcome of that? So a life of following God in the heart is a life of complete freedom. I know to the mind it sounds the opposite. The mind's version of freedom is doing whatever the mind wants to do and still have that bliss and God's love and presence. That's what the mind version of freedom is. I should just be able to do whatever, but unending bliss, unending love, unending peace. To follow lies and to live in truth is not possible. To follow the lie, to follow ego and live with God is not possible. To follow individual will, stake claim to God's gifts is not possible. Utter surrender, utter bhakti, utter submission, utter resignation. This life can no longer be yours. That is deal number one, actually. At all costs means this life can no longer be yours. Up for it or not?
Yes.
For how many minutes?
I can't promise anything, Father.
You have to, my dear. And if you don't want, then put your light on why you can't. What are you scared of? Because we make that promise. You made that promise many times. You just made it. I said for how many?
That's what I say, that I've done that promise many times.
Yes, but are you promising with full sincerity, with no time limit, therefore forever, your life is mine or not?
I don't feel it, Father.
Yes. So that is your inquiry then. Yes? So that is your inquiry then. And this is exactly what I mean by the fire of true spirituality, where all this comes out in the open and can be looked at instead of lying hidden somewhere in the behind the nice words of spirituality. If I pose the question to you another way, if I say to you, in this house, which is your life, there is space only for one. Either the Sadguru presence can live or the ego can live.
Sadhguru.
So sweet. I'm liking the way you said. Oh, like my sweeties are being taken away from me. Is it like that? Sadhguru, stay. Can you imagine? It's just like, okay, what? I give up. You seeing the absurdity of it? It's just only we are only talking about the highest being and the only being in the universe. You see, in exchange for not even like a small grain of sand because it doesn't exist. That is the exchange. And that exchange sounds like, okay, then. Oh. now, now that is hell. That is hell. So to see this is very important. That's why I was laughing the minute you said like that. It's not an equal exchange. It's not a fair exchange at all. But it's unfair in terms of how much you're getting in return for nothing. That's the only way in which it is unfair. I mean it fully literally. Fully literally. In return for the non-existent pride, non-existent want, you can get God. What better deal is there in this universe? I say to you, only one can walk on this lane. Me or God. Can there be reluctance? Me or God? What is even the deal? And yet, in the human condition, this seems like the most difficult choice. It seems like the most difficult choice. And that is the power of the hallucination of the ego, the hypnotism of the thought. And this is for children who have had clear insights about the present, clear insights that God lives in them, in their heart. Even then, it can seem like such a difficult choice. So we can never judge the world and our brothers and sisters in the world because they do not have the advantage that we do. They do not have intuitive insight available like dial a pizza. Some of them believe that they have to practice for thousands of lifetimes before they can get one moment of God's presence. We have the advantage, but then because we have the advantage, we also don't have the excuses. We come to the presence of God. What do we value? It may seem like a very simple question. We come to the presence of God. What do we value in that moment? That, oh, I am so cool, I came to the presence? Or do we value the presence? If it is still, I am the hero of the story, I am the protagonist of the story, then all spiritual experiences are pointless. And this is the fear of complete surrender where the me that we are holding on to, they're scared what is going to happen to that because in following God's will, that will completely be demolished. Okay, we want to be spiritual. We want to be spiritual our way or God's way?
God's way.
Really? Very good. Very good. Now, how will you be spiritual in God's way? Very good. We did the first course correction, which is that at least spirituality, we'll come to materialism in a moment, but at least spirituality has to be done God's way. Is it? Now, okay, we've seen that it has to be done God's way. How to do it God's way?
Giving up the me.
This God decided or you decided?
God.
Let's go slowly over this one. Let's go slowly over this one. If I propose to you that actually what happened is that you relied on knowledge about what has to be done.
If I rely on knowledge.
Yes, that you relied on knowledge when I asked you, is it? Instead of just listening to God. What would you say?
No.
Okay, tell me then, what do you have to do to follow God's way?
To stay with the insight of what my being.
Yes. Moment to moment, to remain open, to allow God's light to be palpable, because it is an allowing actually. In the hypnosis of thought, it's not palpable. So it is an allowing. So to allow God's light to be palpable, and therefore the apparency of self-knowledge to be clear, is to follow God's will. And if some guidance comes, which is in the form of conceptualizable guidance, then to follow that unwaveringly. That's it. That's simplicity of living in faith. So to lose your mind, basically, to lose your mind is to rely on God.
Take it, Father.
Hmm?
Take it. Take my mind.
You have to give it. Yeah, I can't take it.
Okay. Okay.
I can just guide you. I cannot force consciousness in any way. You playing that consciousness, playing as that one, that consciousness has to switch out from the head to the heart. The alarm clock can only buzz, can only ring. You as consciousness have to wake out of this dream. What is seeming difficult? Anything seeming difficult?
not difficult.
Very good. Very good. I will take one question which is related to this. There is a strong conditioning, you say, that God cannot do me any harm, that He is full of mercy in here. Yes, God cannot do you any harm. But where do you know what harm is? That He is full of mercy. Of course, God is full of mercy, good, full of love. But when a parent is telling the child to do their homework, are we full of mercy and love? Yes, in reality, but no, according to the child in that moment. So, our condition, it cannot be a conditional surrender based on our idea of mercy and love. It may seem like very tough medicine. It may seem like very tough medicine. And this is the dying to oneself. So everything that you would put in a category of too much or not merciful, not loving, be open to all of them. Because it's not a half-hearted deal. You cannot make a deal with your heart, with half heart. Saying, I'm fine with this deal as long as it's this way. And there are so many examples of this. A young man, newly married, has come back to his kingdom. And he is the oldest son. But his father, instead of making him the king after him, tells him to go live 14 years in the jungle. And he follows because his father told him. Is it fair? Is it merciful? Is it loving? Our mind could never understand that ask. But it is only because of this that the greatest evil in the world at that time was eradicated in the form of Ravan, which is nothing but a representation of the spiritual ego. It was eradicated because Ram's father sent him to the jungle, and then all those events happened. Now, is that a loving father? You go to the jungle, just you, your wife, and your younger brother. No servants to help you, nothing to take care of you. You may get eaten by lions. Nothing. What kind of a merciful father is that? And yet, because Ram followed his heart and listened to his father, but really the more important thing is because we cannot fathom the ways of God, there is no way for us to judge the goodness and badness of anything. All we can then do is trust fully and unknowingly, like without making sense. And that's what I meant when I said don't expect it to make sense. Because if it made sense, where is the surrender in that? If God says, okay, now do this and I'll tell you why, then you're already convinced in your head. What is the surrender? What is the role of faith in that?
That is happening in love. You love God. that love for you takes surrender to him?
Yes.
Is that what?
Yeah. Surrender because of love is the best. But if you're surrendering because someone you trust has told you to, then do that. Don't wait. What I'm saying is it is the best to surrender out of love. But don't wait for that.
It can happen automatically.
Yes, if there is love, it just happens automatically. But don't wait for that. One says, I cannot surrender. This is good, actually. I like this feeling of autonomy. This is good because of this. So you can identify the blind spot. Okay? I like this feeling of autonomy. Now, who is this autonomy for? Investigate that. But is it also the feeling of autonomy that I can choose to surrender? Or is it all in the mind? Just surrender. Don't understand. Don't understand. Ask yourself, what do you want? Don't want that. Let go of that. Rest in your heart till it is apparent, or remain in the heart that is already unfolding according to God's will. No other tricks, no other mental understanding. In the other satsang, we read the piece from the Japji Sahib by Guru Nanak Ji, where he said, your smartest strategies and your highest understanding is not one step in this journey. It's worthless, it's pointless. What you think you know has nothing to do with anything I'm saying. Your autonomy is your invitation card to help. What you think your autonomy is. Because you don't know who's calling you. The autonomy for the ego is the invitation to suffering, to live in faith and surrender to God. But I'm so glad we're having this conversation. Because a few years back, it actually came to me that most of us want a God-assisted life and not a God-dictated one. And I'm still seeing the extent of that. So autonomy means, and yet we are spiritual, means that I want my way, my thing. And I want God to help me with that. Because I am the greater intelligence who knows what is better for me. But I leave the outcome to Him because I'm so magnanimous. And I'm so great. I say, okay. The outcome is your will. But what should happen is still my decision. So the one that determines the outcome cannot determine what? What should happen? Whose decision must that be? What's the problem in living in the heart? It's all boiling down to that, basically. What's the problem in living in the heart? What's the worst case scenario for your life? Yes, one says, actually, that's a very good answer. She says, not to know. To not know can seem very scary. But if you examine your knowledge, you realize that it provides you no safety at all. All you know, you've known and known and known for so many years. What's going to happen now? What's going to happen now? No idea. No idea. Face this truth that you have no idea. This is the fear of the unknown. This is the fear of death. Face it. You could die any moment and all your knowledge will not help you. All your worldly knowledge will not help you. The one says there is a fear of being totally alone and to get lost. See? So remember that this fear of being totally alone, of getting lost, is not of becoming totally alone and getting lost. Is to notice that you are alone and lost. Is a denial of what already is in the way of the mind. Because in the way of the mind, you're completely lost already. You don't know anything. You don't have anything in your head. All you have is a fantasy. All you have is a fantasy story. What do you actually have? Face this. It is good for you to face it by your invitation rather than life showing you over and over again. So if you are completely lost and alone, which you are today in the head, where do you find refuge from that? The only refuge is with God, is in the heart, is in your reality as one with God. But you cannot jump very conveniently to one with God and skip over the burning of the ego. And the burning of the ego is the burning of individual will. You cannot just conceptualize it away and say, no, yes, I see there is no doer. I see. There is no doer. All these nonsense words will not help you. You cannot trick your way out of this. And this is what Guru Nanak Ji was trying to tell us. All our smartness will not help us. It may make us a spiritual encyclopedia. The best spiritual encyclopedia in the universe is not free. It's just a bundle of concepts. Understand? So if you keep going in that direction, you will become a pandit of spirituality. You will become an encyclopedia, a philosopher of spirituality, but not a true practitioner. You will not meet the oneness of God. You will only meet it in words. And you may keep repeating the words conceptually till the end of your life. It is not going to happen. Aham Brahmanasmi. If it is purely conceptual, then you're just becoming smarter. But that smartness will not help you. Every trick in the book, every tactic you have up your sleeve is not going to help you. If you're seeking attention, you may get attention from 7 billion constantly. You may be the object of their attention. It is not going to help you when death comes. If you seek riches and physical pleasure and things like this, you can get the most out of this. Your senses will give up soon. Anyway, not going to help you. Whatever you want in the way of your mind, it's just trying to console yourself that this hell is livable. Retreat to your heart. That is where you find truth, solace, comfort, refuge, love, peace, the true light. God lives there. How can we be in seemingly spiritual satsang, so many of us, and be in complete avoidance of God? Isn't that a joke? And your problem is that you have no excuse because you have intuitive insight. You have no excuse now because you have intuitive insight. You know your awareness, you see it without your senses. Unperceivable insight is with you, it is yours. Now your insistence on living it from the mind, you have no excuses for that. Because you realize the one that it is representing doesn't exist. You realize the truth of yourself. You have recognized yourself as awareness. But to not live from the heart now, to not live from this light, to not live from the highest that you are discovering, is unbearable to you, and that is why this voice in front of you is provoking you so much. So either way you look at it, who am I? You have no excuse. You have seen, you have recognized that you are awareness. And if some of you are new, we can go through that together. But most of you at this point have been in satsang so long that this is simply apparent that you are not an individual limited entity. You are not in time and space. This is apparent to you. And that is why I am chopping away at the stubborn need to hold on to the way of the mind instead of allowing yourself to drown in the way of the heart. And you know what I'm finding? I'm finding that all your spiritual insights your mind is using to defend. It's using to defend itself. So like this, we can play it both ways. We can emphasize on the way of faith and complete self-submission as an aid to insight. And we can emphasize sometimes the intuitive insight as the way to aid our surrender. You're caught from both sides if you continue to listen openly. There is no escaping. Because here it is not the bhakti path or the dhyana path. It is both. Now you're badly stuck. No wiggle room. You cannot say, oh, my temperament is like this. I would prefer it like that. There's no space for that nonsense. If I've not made you uncomfortable, I'm not doing a good job. If there's no fire burning, I need to find more fuel. From what I'm seeing on the screen, it seems to be burning all right. Too uncomfortable. Thank you. Only one reassurance I have for you so that we don't put out the fire. The only reassurance is remember what can burn. Remember what can burn. That's what you're here for. I really just feel like taking a bazooka to this like lame, tame spirituality and blowing it up. That's my feeling. Being hiding behind the guise of spirituality has to be pulled out now and thrown away. And you're discovering the punch of this because most of you actually have been in satsang for so long, you had beautiful experiences, beautiful insights. But now as the true extent of surrender is being made apparent to you, you're seeing that there is no place for the ego to hide. Some of you are squirming. You see, that squirming is very important. Because you're realizing that you can hide and you can pose in front of everyone except your own heart. You can say big words about surrendering and our life being for God and for truth and all of that. But you cannot hide from your own heart. As you've been thrown in the unpredictable fire of God's love, which makes no sense to you. The throat of your ego is being squeezed. And all that I've said in all satsang ever, maybe in 12 years, is that it's not about you. Get over yourself. That's fundamentally all that I've said. Just get over yourself. Let's go to Batul. Batul can come.
Thank you so much. And I want to express my thanks and gratitude to be here in Satsang and to have this opportunity to be weekly. So happy to really discover you. Thank you so much. My question is how to be in live satsang and to remain present as presence in your heart when you have a question or something to share.
Yeah.
I'm putting this question, and I know there is many. They have the same question, and especially soon there is the retreat with Moji.
Yes.
And I feel very much in my heart this call to take this opportunity fully, to wake up on the truth fully, and to keep just quiet, to allow myself to this.
Yes.
I cannot know what will happen in future, but the experience, the last experiences in the retreats, which is in 2022, in this year retreat, when I'm not on the Zoom session, and I don't, or I'm on the Zoom but I don't have question, I'm present with what is giving. But when I have something to share and I'm putting my hand, so some kind of preparation to the question or
Yes.
to put it in the words, so it can create kind of disturbance or not to be present with, and so to miss many of things.
Yeah.
And I feel it's something, it's natural, but I felt to ask you this, especially this is the first time I will talk to Muji, maybe if he called me, of course. I never met him, never been in Sahaja, and it is, of course, it will be different here. Here we are somehow, there with Muji there is a lot of people, quite big number, and he is Muji, you know. This is a great love and great looking to see him or to talk to him. Something starts to feel like of course here also there is a great love, but I don't know, I just putting it as I feel. So
thank you.
It's become somehow obvious that remain in your heart, remain as the self, but it is a tendency, you know, it's just the habit of the mind, because it's still trying to find any chance to to pull out. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Very sweet report like last time. Very nice. Let's use this as an opportunity to look at what we've been saying today. So can you identify from your report what is it that you want now?
What do I want out of my question?
Yeah, what is the main thing? Is it that how do I make sure I use the opportunity well and yet come up and be able to ask the right question, although the question needs some preparation, because it's a big stage in a way and you get to talk to Guruji in that way. Then how do I make sure that I'm not missing what he's saying while I prepare for the question that is coming up? No? So
And especially there is kind of not responsibility, but I have to be true to my words
Yes.
now, not going to references from the memory or something past. So I need to be present, not just to not miss because maybe I can't see the records, but also to be present with him and to be open and empty to allow the to be quiet, to allow this discovery or
Yes.
awakening.
Yes. So the knowledge that you need to be open, you need to be present, you need to allow, that knowledge will get in the way of your presence, allowing, and openness. Can we meet here?
Yes.
Something rings a bell in the heart. No? So you notice that. So this is what I meant by what do we want. So our most humble and highest outcomes, even the spiritual ones, that isn't it the best thing? I want to be as open as possible, as truthful as possible, as present as possible, as accepting as possible of Guruji's grace. But when these become terms of understanding and of knowledge, then they themselves play the reverse trick. So they become a desire which gets in the way of the natural openness, which already is. So how to attend the retreat, how to listen, ask questions, how to participate fully is like you are a 2-year-old.
Sorry, it likes to.
Like you're a 2-year-old child who doesn't know all of this. Just attend like a 2-year-old child who's just there and allowing God's light to play out as it is meant to. Remember that the most humble, most spiritual, even the words of Satsang which we make positions into for ourselves, because this is a very subtle thing I'm telling you, that even these can become the slight speck of dust in our eye. It prevents the meeting with the master. So it's a bit of a conundrum. I don't want the slightest speck, but my not wanting is the slightest speck. You know this? I don't want the slightest speck, but it is my not wanting the slightest speck which is the speck. Reduces us to an utter innocence, utter positionlessness, utter emptiness.
This still wanting, this still kind of desire, or
Yes.
how
Even the
things should
did
be.
not have desire, although it may have been auspicious at some point, not really, but suppose it was auspicious at some point, but now it has served its purpose. Fully empty. Not even empty. Beautiful line from a song we were translating the other day. There where even nothing was not. There where even nothing was not, he was there.
Sorry, I didn't hear well.
Yes. So I was saying that we translated it from a line, and maybe somebody in the center can help me with the original line, but we translated from the line, and the translation of this song was, there where even nothing was not. There where even nothing was not, he is there. So this is the key I have for you to attend satsang, to attend life.
Yeah.
Translations.
So this is from a beautiful song called Kun Faya Kun Faya Kun. Even I don't know what that means, but one of the lines is, जब कहीं पे कुछ नहीं भी नहीं था, वही था वही था वही था वही था. जब कहीं पे कुछ नहीं भी नहीं था, means that where even nothing was not, only he was, only he was. How do we come to that utter emptiness, utter positionlessness, motionlessness, headlessness? All of satsang today has been about that. All of satsang has been about that. The way of faith which allows us to remain headless.
Seems like the understanding at a certain point it's helpful, and then at a certain point you have to surrender it, and to otherwise it will stand itself in the way.
Yes. Don't even wait till you have surrendered it. Yes. Now, before the sound of the click. That is open and empty. That is timelessness. If you give yourself time to do it, it will become something in time. It has to be met fully right now. Before now. That utter simplicity, that utter innocence which is available before the birth of time, that is where your reality is.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Matthias.
So helpful. Yeah. May this retreat be for all of us full openness and full awakening to our reality itself. And I may to also to ask you your prayers and your blessings to my family. Yeah, I'm not living with them, but I can feel the tightness and the suffering coming out of the identification with the personal situations and its impact on the body. So to fully for full openness and healing for these mind situations and bodily sicknesses. So, and I'm asking this for all of the Sangha, of course. Thank you so much.
Yes, what is it? Louder. Be and it is. I'm going to close today. I see that some hands are up, but just by way of explanation, I spent most of the day in the hospital with my father, and when I visit hospital, somehow this body starts feeling very tired. So I hope you'll forgive me for not taking your questions today. All my love, all my blessings. And if you actually replay today's satsang, you'll find that most of the questions are answered there. Also, the recording that we have from Wednesday, I feel like most of what I've said over the last 12 years is encapsulated quite well in that one. So I would really like to point everyone in that direction. So what's been happening is that broadcast has only been on Fridays. But Monday and Wednesday I meet the Sangha locally in Bangalore. And inevitably we have some requests for people to be able to join in because something is happening or they really need to be in satsang something. So we've been getting some to join on WhatsApp calling and things like this. So we just felt like it's easier if we just put it on Zoom and allow it to be a live thing like this, except that they may not be video. We'll see how that goes. And maybe we don't have so much opportunity to ask questions, but it'll be nice. You're welcome, all of you are welcome to join those directly to hearing and get a sense of how we are moving while living here in Bangalore in our sweet little ashram, non-existent sweet ashram. It would be easier to come to you than to stay home and surrender in daily life. One of you have said. It would be easier to come to you than to stay home and surrender in daily life. Because as a mom and partner, there I meet many I thoughts of how I want things and people to be. That is still hard to say. Start joining, let's see, on Monday and Wednesday as well. And then, of course, you're always welcome to come, but maybe in your life situation at the moment, it's not enough space. If there is, always, this is your home for all of you.